Are we ready to make the TikTok girlies upsetty spaghetti today? Hi, my name is Rachel and today we are talking about Zodiac Academy. Thanks, I hate it. This book is so hyped on Book Talk, which I recently got into after the whole Pawn and the Puppet fiasco. And recently someone gave a literal 3-second opinion on Zodiac Academy in which they said nothing. Yet, wow, the response was disproportionate. Many a TikToker were in their feelings. I tried to have a conversation about it, but more people were like even more mad. Apparently, if you say that a book is trash, that's bullying an author, even though reviews are not for authors. Who can make sense of it? Not me. Anyways, let's get into the book review. This absolute dumpster fire of a book is about two girls who are living in Chicago for whatever reason and find out that they're fae. They get taken from Chicago to Fairyland against their will, and then many a thing happens to them against their will. In fact, I would say that the whole book is just things happening to these two twin girls against their will. They get relentlessly bullied by 4 particular people, but a slew of others, while attending a school, maybe a university, maybe a college, I don't know, in Fairyland, called the titular Zodiac Academy. Predominantly, they're bullied by these 4 dudes who want to rule Fairyland, and they see the girls as a threat to this because, surprise, the girls are princesses. I was a girl in the village doing all right, then I became a princess overnight. This was pitched on TikTok as sexy Harry Potter, which is not how I would describe it. Let's just dive in, shall we? Chapter 1, we have fat phobia and shit descriptions. We start with one of our 2 main characters, though they're practically indistinguishable. We have Tori and Darcy. We start with Darcy. In the first chapter, Darcy is breaking into the home of their former foster father because the girl's parents died. She's breaking into their former foster home's dad because they had stashed a wad of cash there, and her sister are sort of living life not so much in luxury and would like their money. Somehow the police have been alerted before she even actually breaks in, and she hears sirens as she's going into the place. And immediately we have fat shaming. She says, "I was mentally carried to a jail cell. I turned to my cellmate Patrice, who had a gut the size of a beach ball and a menacing gleam in her eye." At least she's well fed. Okay, then she says she breaks into the house quiet as air. Quiet as air. There are so many things. There are so many things that you could have went with, and you decided to describe something silent as air? I just don't. What? Something has to be capable of making a sound on its own. Anyway, I'm not just going to describe sounds to you, but oh my god. Beta readers, failed. Editor, failed. Writer, failed. Like, you couldn't think of one thing that's quiet? You went with air? This is how I know that nobody actually cares about the writing in this book. We are on page 1. Page 1. She mentions that the cash mostly came from her sister Tori, who she describes as coming home smelling like gasoline and adrenaline and coming home at all hours of the night. Adrenaline, as far as I can tell, does not have a smell, but okay. And then she says, "I couldn't find it in me to care about the source." Bruh, if she smells like gasoline, what the fuck do you think the source is? Like, my god, you just led me to it like an episode of Blue's Clues. What the fuck? Like, do you think that your readers are completely incapable of picking up on context, or is your character just completely incapable of picking up on context clues? She steals the wad of cash. She gets chased by police. One of them grabs the wad of cash. That sucks. She goes home. The next POV is her sister Tori. Tori is about to steal a motorcycle. Hey look, the context clues led us exactly where we thought that would go. Assumedly, she has been doing this for a while, seeing as she was able to, you know, stockpile some cash, right? So you would think that she's well versed in this criminal activity that she's been doing for some time. You would be wrong. She gets on the motorcycle and she says, "Anticipation caressed my spine, or touched my spine like a feather-like caress." And I was like, oh, finally, a good description. That was the last good description in the book, I am sorry to say. It came in chapter 2. It's quite upsetting. So then she goes to her buyer to buy the bike where she sells her stolen vehicles typically. And he's like, "Bro, I can't take this. This is an extremely expensive bike. You should know this." And I'm like, yeah, she should know this, seeing as she's been doing this for a while. How does a seasoned vehicle thief not know this? I just, no continuity. Anyways, she gets home, there's a man there. He uses Fae speak to get into her apartment. You know how Fae can convince you to do things. He's inside their apartment and he's like, hey, you're Fae. Oh God. There's always a fly. There's always a fly. He's like, yo, what's up? My name is Professor Orion. I'm super hot. I'm an asshole. How you doing? I don't care. And Darcy describes him as he was entirely at ease except for a vaguely tense air about him. How can you be entirely at ease and tense? You can't be both things. You are either entirely at ease or you are not. That what? Anyway, that makes no fucking sense. I can't tell if this is better or worse than the point in the book where a dick is unironically referred to as a magic wand. He keeps using Fae speak on them to get them to comply. He gives a sort of explanation of the girl's backstory and they're like, what? But then they ask barely any questions. Turns out he has the wad of cash. He brings it out. He's like, you mean this wad of cash? Yes, obviously. He says, since your 18th birthday, you have both been giving off a signature that my kind can sense from a world away. Literally. Okay. He says, I'm not a beat around the bush kind of guy, so here it is. You're not human. I would endeavor to tell you that he is a beat around the bush kind of guy. Not here, but certainly later, because there's no continuity in these characters. They just fit the mold of whatever is needed at the scene at the time, in the scene at the time, and then, you know, they shapeshift into a different character depending on what the author wants to do later. No character continuity, because these characters don't actually matter. You're Fae, which means you have an unawakened power in you defined by the stars themselves. You belong in Solaria, a mirror world of Earth where Fae rule. Are we keeping up? No, we're not. We're not. We have a dozen questions, don't we? No, the girls do not have a dozen questions. You're both Gemini, hot-headed, hence the coercion I've used on you to keep all this running smoothly, especially as we're already running late. Gemini, as in the star sign? No, not as in the star. Precisely. Gemini is an air sign, and once your powers are awakened, hang on. Do you really expect us to believe that we have powers? Like magic? He says, honestly, I don't care what you believe. Me, same. But I have a job to do, and part of that job is explaining this to you. Frankly, I'd rather not waste my breath, as you're going to find out soon enough anyway. Who gave him this job? We never find out. Two, they're not gonna find out much of anything. So that's great. And of all the questions that Tori could ask, she says, what does that mean? Bitch, you need to make a list of at least 15 different questions, and that's probably at the bottom. Darcy says, you said we're Fae. What does that even mean? We're a different race, a better one. Careful, Miss Vega, expressions like that are punishable in my classroom. First of all, she's not your student, you fucking weirdo. Second of all, this sentence has no commas in it, which is terrible. And third, we're just gonna not ask any more questions about the Fae part? No, we're not. We're gonna move on. Vega, that's not my name. Please tell me you've got the wrong twins. That's your true surname in Solaria. No one will call you anything else once you get there. Mark my words. Why? That's my question. Why? We don't know. We don't know. And we won't know the whole book. We won't know. Let me give you a little more context. She says, excuse me, what drug are you on exactly? I'm gonna guess coke? Wrong questions. Wrong questions to be asking. You're asking the worst questions of all time. I don't know how you got so stupid. Maybe it's all the gasoline fumes. I don't know. Wow, what the fuck is wrong with these main characters? He's like, just humor me. And Darcy says, you haven't explained anything. And he won't, because you will never ask the right questions. And why should we believe anything you say anyway? You shouldn't. But anyway, that's besides the point. He snatched up a satchel, flipping it over and pouring the contents out on the coffee table. And in it is their entire foster care file and a bunch of pictures of them and their parents. And we will never know why he had all of this. I read this entire book. And this never gets explained. Never. You never know why he had an entire foster care file on them, how he got these photos, nothing. He never says how, they never ask how. It gets dropped after this chapter and never brought up again. They ask, why do you have a photo of our parents? He says, they're not your parents, you're changelings. Elementals, Fae born with natural magic flowing in your veins. Your real parents swapped you for the twins born to that couple in the picture. That's not true. Why would they do that? Again, wrong question. His answer, my guess, you were in danger. Or maybe you just annoyed them as much as you're annoying me right now. We get it. You're arrogant, you don't really want to be here, you have a file, but you haven't explained, you have a job, you haven't explained who gave it to you, why you have it, if you're getting paid for it, or if you have like a genuine interest in it. No answers. And there won't be. We get it. You're arrogant, you're hot, you don't want to be here, you're annoyed. I don't care. All I care about is the plot, and we're not asking any questions to actually make a plot. They don't even ask, why would we be in danger? Why would they switch us out with another set of twins? Where are the other twins? No question. By the way, herein lies my main problem. That question, what happened to the other twins? The fact that they never ask it is so wild to me. It bothered me the whole book. He says, all you have to do is agree to enroll at Zodiac Academy. You'll get full board, have your own beds, and your inheritance will cover the cost of your stay, plus you'll receive a stipend. So you want us to go to some school? And Tori's like, I do want the money. And he says, just say yes and come with me. But he did it in face speak, so they had to go with him. Oh, shucks. He's like, I should have done that from the beginning. Yes, but then we would have continuity, you know? Anyway. Oh, and by the way that they traveled was with something called Stardust. Stardust never comes up again after this, even though it's described as the rarest substance in Solaria and the quickest way to travel. There are so many times that these girls get stuck on campus grounds. Could they just have used Stardust to travel? If they have so much money, couldn't they have just bought it? It's not plot relevant. The villains in this series aren't trying to, you know, get their hands on it in order to do any sort of magic. It never comes up again. Zero continuity. Because the plot doesn't matter. The characters don't really matter. All that matters is the bullying. So now we're in Solaria. Yay! And they're immediately among other students and about to attend Zodiac Academy. And they're doing their power thing, their power test with Professor Zenith of the astrology department. You think that astrology would be a big deal considering that this is the professor in charge of, you know, the power thing, the test here, and then on top of that there's like, you know, the fact that the whole fucking school is called Zodiac Academy, and Zodiac Academy is one of assumedly more than, you know, other academies. And so if the most prestigious school is named after the Zodiac, then you would think that astrology is a big deal in this world. It's not. It is hardly ever plot or character relevant at all. They figure out what powers they have. You can have one of 4. Some people have 2, but guess what? Surprise, surprise, the girls have all 4. Air, water, earth, fire. The 4 nations lived in peace until one day the fire nope, wrong one. They figure out they have all 4 powers, then they go to the school, they meet a girl named Sophia, who immediately is like, I bet this place is really confusing for you. Yes, no shit. And she says to them, I could be your info source. And then instead of, like, you know, taking her up on that, they don't ask any fucking questions. This makes no sense. It bothers me. You are in a new world. You don't even have a basic first question. You just randomly popped into a new world, found out you have 4 different magic powers, and you're enrolled in a school, and you have inheritance, and your parents weren't your parents and they're dead, and then your birth parents, who are, you know, seemingly news to you, are also dead, and then the twins, you haven't asked about them? You have no questions? How? I have like a zillion. You're just supposed to live here in the dark and you're cool with that? The twin, whichever one is in this POV, it doesn't matter. They're interchangeable for me. Tries to be friendly, but apparently has never had a conversation in her life, even though seemingly she did prior. I mean, she just met Orion. And it says, I'm trying out a warm smile, wondering if I was managing to pull it off. I probably looked like a hyena on crack. We then spend 7 or 8 paragraphs hearing descriptions of how alluring the 4 heirs, remember them, the boys, the 4 heirs are. And most of them are pretty much indistinguishable from each other except for the black guy, Max, who she describes and then immediately says that she has the desire to touch his hair, which is, come on. Then she says, we hadn't exactly had the time to discuss the life-altering, mind-crushing new reality we'd found ourselves dumped in, but the smile she was trying to hide, her sister, let me know that she was just as energized about this place as me. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but something about Zodiac Academy just felt right. It felt like coming home after months abroad, except for the fact that I'd never been abroad, or ever really felt like I had a home in my entire life, so that couldn't be right. Bitch, stop it. Home was where my ass landed, but I was glad that it was here for now. Girl, what the fuck? How do you not have a million questions? You're just like, well, here's home. How? Then they met the Principal Nova, Principal Nova, your guiding star here at Zodiac Academy. Yet they never asked this woman any questions. And she's like, I heard we have 2 things to celebrate with you guys tonight. And Darcy's like, huh? And the principal says, when Orion informed me that the girls he'd been tracking were indeed the Las Vega twins, I couldn't have been more delighted to welcome you back into the fold and return you to your people. But to then discover that the 2 of you hold all 4 elements within your grasp, it's unheard of. Your return will be the talk of the entire Fae population, not just the school. Your every move will be watched and assessed as we all clamor to find out if you can really, truly reclaim the throne. And Darcy's like, what throne? The principal's like, didn't Professor Orion explain it to you? That would require him to give a shit and them to give a shit. So no, nothing got explained. It's great. It's going great. And she glances over her shoulder and notices that he's like slipping away into the crowd, which, oh man. They're like, no, he just broke into our apartment and forced us to come here. And let's back up a second, shall we? Again, she just said she'll be your guiding star, like Nova. Yeah, we get it. And you don't hear her say this and then think, could we sit down with you and ask you a few questions? No, instead, they're just like, whatever. We just spent 7 or 8 paragraphs describing these 4 dudes who are super fine, apparently. And she wants to touch this black guy's hair. You can't ask a question? These authors did this shit on purpose just to fuck with me. Like, what do you mean lost Vega twins? What happened to the other twins? How did y'all even know that they were not the Fae twins? How'd you figure out that they were changelings? Anyway, Darcy says, he told us that our parents aren't who we thought that they were, and that we had to come here to school to claim our inheritance. And Principal Nova's like, oh, well, that's a very brief description. Bitch, just explain. Just get to the fucking point. She says, your parents were the last king and queen of Solaria. You'd return here as joint heirs to the throne. What the fuck happened to the other twins? And Darcy's like, you mean we're princesses? Well, yes, which is why you've caused quite a stir. Since the demise of your mother and father, notice that the twins do not get brought up again, the other twins. The 4 celestial families have held the power of the throne between them equally, the heirs. They had intended to keep hold of that power with their own heirs in the knowledge that the royal line had fallen, but with your return, everything could be about to change once more. This year's attendees have been joined by 2 particular important girls, Principal Nova. What? Principal Nova says to everybody, I'm delighted to announce that we have recovered the missing Vega heirs and brought them back under the protection of our great nation. For 17 years, the Vega twins were lost to us, believed to be dead, but to our great surprise, with the surfacing of their powers on their 18th birthday, we were able to track them down in the mortal realm and return them to their rightful place among us. I don't understand. How is it that their particular magic sent off a signal that let you know that the other 2 twins were not the real Vega twins? Does this get described? No. How? What the fuck? Listen, I'm already tired of talking about this book, and I've read enough excerpts, I feel. So I'm just gonna speed you through the rest of what happens, okay? Because it's all ridiculous, and I just want to get to the part where I rant. You think I haven't been ranting? Oh, you must be new here. There is no plot in this book. What ensues after the arrival in Fairyland is a series of abuses from the heirs and a bunch of non-consensual bullshit from a bunch of other people. That guy, Principal Orion, has like 3 personalities in the time we know him. First he shows up and he's like, hi, I've been looking for you. Here's a bunch of info. Then he takes them to Fairyland and immediately watches them get bullied and physically assaulted and does nothing. He's just standing there watching. Then he takes part in the abuse by non-consensually feeding from one of the twins because he's a vampire. Then at the end, he's suddenly like sort of a love interest and is saying, I'll kick you heirs out of this school, you bullies. Just kidding, I'll just settle for detention. Detention? In a college? Hello? Is this the circus? The girls don't really make friends. They meet this one guy named Darius. Oh, sorry, Diego. All the people are the same to me. For some reason, Diego uses one random Spanish word in many sentences, including a sentence that says, this school is muy cliquey. And like, I have questions. Like, so this is a mirror world to Earth. Does that mean that Fae Spain colonized Fae South America and Central America, thus the Spanish language took over? Or like Fae Spain, I don't understand. In the end, the girls have sort of flirted with some of the heirs and other people, and there was like one fingering scene, but mostly they've just been bullied. Calling this a bully romance is it's false advertisement. The teachers in this school are all named hilariously stupid things based on the subjects they teach, which begs the question, did they get those names after they started teaching, or did they have those names and they were like, well, guess I can't go in any other subject? Like, if your name is Professor Pyro and you end up going and being a teacher of water element, it's just not gonna work. Yes, there is a Professor Pyro. And these teachers throughout the book and at the end do absolutely nothing. And the girls never ask a single relevant question. So I will be asking all of them. I did list them in my notes. At the end, here's what happens. One of the heirs cuts off Darcy's hair, and her hair having been dyed blue to differentiate herself from her sister was important to her, yada yada. Tori almost gets drowned by one of the heirs, Darius, who's probably her love interest in the further books. I just assume that whoever had bullied them the worst is likely to be their love interest later on. So whoever did the most abuse, that's endgame. Yay! Orion comes running to save, the twins, because in that part of the book suddenly he's giving a shit, and so he's like, I want to kick you guys out. I'll kick everybody out, and actually I'm just gonna give you detention. And then outside, they're inside of the school pool where they tried to drown Darcy. Tori, who cares? And then outside there's some screaming, so everybody runs outside and something's on fire. Turns out it's a body. It's actually a body of a teacher who had been secretly trying to help the girls, but it was very weird and convoluted. And everyone asks, did the nymphs do it? Oh yeah, there's nymphs. Not on page, they're just talked about. You just hear about because they might be a threat. Apparently they can soak up Fae power with shadow magic, but the shadow magic is them literally like reaching into the heart of the Fae. Not another fantasy book trying to get me to hate my favorite kind of magic. Not again. Here's the thing, there were good bones of ideas here, but the authors didn't want to actually write a fantasy. They didn't want to craft a good story. They wanted to write a bully romance in Walmart Harry Potter school. Hogwarts. There was a way to make this a good story. Unfortunately, the way that they went about it, one, made very little sense, and two, was just lazily written, like to the point where it wasn't even entertaining. And listen, I watch Riverdale. I can be entertained by bad writing. This is not that. And it wasn't a bully romance, as I said, it was just bullying. There isn't romance. There's like a flirtatious love square, possibly for both of the girls. But to be honest, the twins are basically, again, impossible for me to distinguish between. And mostly so were the heirs. Like, it's just a bunch of copy-pasted people being awful to each other. And I'm not against bully romance. I think it can be done. One of my favorite movies is A Walk to Remember, and that definitely starts out as bullying and leads to a romance. I wish this had done what A Walk to Remember did. If only. Unfortunately, writing is hard. Speaking of, once again, it does not make any sense that these girls ask no fucking questions. They had so many people to ask questions of. The principal, Sophia, Orion, if he was in a chapter where he was a particular kind of character. And don't give me that they don't know who to trust. Okay, get some information and fucking figure it out later. On top of this, I don't understand why Tori, the car thief with street smarts, didn't think, maybe we should just get the money and dip the fuck out of here. There were so many questions that these girls could have asked, and I'm going to list them for you. Why did their parents die? Why would the girls themselves have been in danger? In danger from whom? What happened to the other twins? Oh, they're dead? How? Same way as the parents? Okay. How did the Fae world figure out that those were not the real twins and that the real twins were still alive? Does magic give off a signature based on who you are? In that case, why doesn't that ever get brought up? Did something happen or not happen that clued everybody in? What was it? Are changelings common? What happens to other changelings in this world when they're found out? And on and on and on. And then it doesn't make sense that the girls don't even think, hey, could maybe we like compromise with the heirs? We don't even really want the throne anyway. Is there a way that we could just, you know, figure it out together? Could we throw in our lot and also be the 5th heir? No? Okay. And again, I just want to go back to Tori. Like, bitch, you steal cars and you can't just think about maybe I should just steal the money. Also, like, what's their plan going forward? Are they going to stay in Fairyland, go back to Chicago? Does the money they get in Fairyland work in the human world? What's their plan, like, going forward if they're going to stay in Fairyland? Why didn't she even ask questions about possibly stealing the money? A car thief who doesn't steal? I don't understand. And then, like, why are the girls being bullied by these dudes if they say they didn't want the throne at all? Why didn't the dudes just say, okay, then, like, let's figure something out? If 4 families can get along, why can't they add a 5th? I don't get it. And also, like, here's the question I asked, like, within the first, I think, like, 10 chapters. How far can these dudes take the bullying? How far can they go? Why aren't they allowed to kill these girls outright? You can almost drown them, you can physically assault them, but you can't kill them? Why is that the line? Who's gonna be mad about it? Who's gonna riot? Nobody's coming to their aid when you're physically abusing them. I don't get it. These are all questions that the author should have provided answers to in book 1. There's no reason I should end the book not knowing the answers to this, or having context clues that it may be a variety of different answers that will come to light in later books. Instead, there's just nothing. Here's how I would have suggested redoing this had the author given this to me to give, like, developmental edits to. Take out the girls being from Chicago entirely. Because if you're not going to take the time to help the twins learn about the new world and thus the audience, what's the fucking point? We're not experiencing the new things along with them. Everybody's just being thrust into this thing with no answers. It's stupid. I would have had them be raised by someone else or in an orphanage. Then suddenly maybe it was a secret that the twins who died with the king and queen came to light, and that it was not the real twins. So everybody's been mourning these, you know, these twins, and suddenly that they weren't the real twins all along. The girls come into their powers on their 18th birthday and show that they have all 4 powers, which is a sign of royalty maybe, and poof, people realize, okay, those also were not the real twins. This must be the real twins. This means that they have an inheritance that they can collect, so they're able to go to Zodiac Academy rather than like one of the simple academies that they had planned on being in attendance of with their friends, who they would have had. Instead, they have no friends, either in the real world or the Fae world, which is ridiculous. So they're thrust into this glamorous, glitzy lifestyle, but everything is not as it seems, and people in the academy around them are turning up dead ever since they arrived. All evidence is pointing to them. Meanwhile, they suspect that it's the mysterious yet sexy Professor Orion, who isn't very forthcoming about details with their parents despite having an obvious interest in them. In the end, it could be revealed that Professor Orion was protecting them all along, and it was actually Principal Nova doing murders on behalf of the nymphs, and maybe the heirs were planting evidence to make it look like it was the girls because they want to be in power, and if the twins look incompetent, then they can't be in the running to rule. And maybe there should be like a competition to decide who rules, and they want the girls out of the competition. That's me coming up with something in 20 seconds, and I think that it makes way more sense than the nonsensical drivel that I spent time reading. This also needed an editor for spelling mistakes and punctuation and grammar. There's also like a lot of British spelling of things, even though the girls are supposed to be from Chicago, which was quite confusing. But I could have ignored all that for a story that made sense, or just for entertainment purposes. Unfortunately, this gave neither. If you're going to write a fae story with magic, you need a plot and a world that makes sense. Otherwise, I'm going to make fun of the fact that the stuff you wrote is so bad, it doesn't even make sense as a fever dream. Listen, I don't go into books looking for bad stuff, I just read them and it's there. This even has stuff that theoretically I should like. I love magic school settings. I like elemental magic. I can even take campy shit, but this was just bad. And again, I watched Riverdale willingly, and Pretty Little Liars. There's stuff that's so bad it's funny, like those two things, and then there's just bad, like Zodiac Academy. And look me in the eyeballs, look at me, fellow reader, in my eyeballs, and hear me. I will not read 4 books so that a story gets good. Each book in a series should stand on its own. This is garbage. It is the hottest, juiciest, Florida midsummer sweltering heat garbage that I have read this month. Therefore, the authors deserve no more of my time. I will not read 4 books in the hopes that they get better at writing. They should have utilized an editor and beta readers and alpha readers in order to get good initially. Because there's no reason a book should be this level of bad. Therefore, I award them no points, and may God have mercy on their souls. This is a bad book, and I do not have to read the rest of the series in order to judge this book. This book alone, on its own, is terrible. That's not how reviewing works. I don't read 1 through 4 and then rate them. I read and rate individually, so no. Okay, I'm done. No more for me. I tried it. It's not for me, love. It, in the words of the great prophet Taylor Swift, it made me want to die. Harassment in fairyland plus one fingering scene is a bully romance? I don't fucking think so. Never again. I actually am going to read the first book in these authors' other series though, the Quarantine Kings, just to fuck around and find out. Hopefully that's better. Probably not, but you know, there's always hope, I guess. Unless you're me and you read bad books all the time. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave your comments down below about this terrible ass book. I do not care if you're mad. I don't care. Thanks for watching. If you want to support my channel, I have a link to my Ko-fi account down below, but the best way you can support is to like and subscribe. Let me know what other terrible books I should be reading that TikTok is in love with. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye! Artemis says it's a bad book, and she will not be reading the rest of the series.